And we are now just one day away from the ABC News presidential debate in Philadelphia. And former President Donald Trump is maintaining his lead over Vice President Kamala Harris nationally with voters. A new New York Times Santa College poll finds that 48% of likely voters support Trump, 47% back Harris. Now, this is in the margin of error, but the poll also found that more voters consider Harris to be too liberal or progressive on key policy issues than they consider Trump to be too conservative. Meanwhile, the Harris-Walz campaign is set to kick off a 4-day campaign blitz through major swing states after the debate. I want to bring in for our election debate panel former Bush 43 White House official and West Front Strategies founding partner Ashley Davis, Democratic consultant, and former House Judiciary Committee Chief Counsel Julian Epstein. So good morning to both of you. It is a big week, Ashley, and I'm going to start with you. First, to what we can expect. You know, a lot of the commentary coming out about Donald Trump on the debate stage tomorrow night is that he has to be careful about persona versus policy, and that if he comes across too aggressive, that could hurt him in the minds of the millions of viewers we expect to watch this debate.
Well, absolutely. And what it was said earlier by the Congresswoman, everyone knows President Trump's personality, but he does have to be careful in regards to criticizing her personally. But he will definitely go after the policies that she and the Biden administration have had for the last 4 years in regards to the economy, the border, crime. I mean, I can go on and on. But his personality does need to be a little bit toned down. But she has a lot more to lose on this debate than anybody else. 30% of this country is unhappy. 30% of this country thinks that it is in the right direction. For her to say that the last 4 years her policies are making people feel happy about where they are in their life is just absolutely the wrong conversation that she's having.
You know, it's interesting, too, because obviously now that we've gotten Kamala Harris's policy page, which was published about an hour ago, to be clear here, Julian, now we get a sense of some of her ideas. I think it's interesting that this was done the day before the debate, but I digress. So let me ask you this, Julian, about her debate prep, because apparently she's working with lawyer Karen Dunn. That's who worked with her on her 2020 vice presidential debate, against Mike Pence, with many saw as actually a strong performance by her. And then she's also got a former Hillary Clinton advisor, Philip Raines, who's playing Trump in her mock debates. You know, I think people forget that Kamala Harris is 5'4". So on that stage, he is going to be a towering presence above her. That's the optics, Julian.
Yeah, I think that she did decent in 2020. I think she has to stay away from the gimmicks like, excuse me, I'm speaking, that kind of stuff. I think that's sort of worn thin. And look, I agree with your guest here. I think if this is a debate, if this debate devolves into a debate over personality, that's good for Kamala Harris. If it devolves into a debate about policy, as it should, that's not good. I mean, as a New York Times, for her, that what the New York Times poll shows is that the public wants change and they want centrism. And right now they think Donald Trump is the agent of change, and they think that he is also the agent of centrism. I think it's been a big mistake for the Democrats and the Harris campaign to hide her from the press. I think as the New York Times poll shows, about a third of the public has no idea what she stands for, and she is being defined as a far-left candidate. You know, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, when they were running for president, they both shifted to the political center, and you could not get between them and a camera. They would make themselves available frequently and as often as they could for unscripted media environments. I think the campaign signaling that they are not going to make her available beyond the debate for these environments is hurting her and allowing the Republicans to define her as being an agent of the status quo, which the public doesn't like, and an agent of far leftism, which, you know, 70% of the public is moderate or conservative. So I think, you know, sort of running as a far left progressive is not a winning strategy.
Well, and also, too, you know, she hasn't debated in 4 years, which I think, you know, we have to remind everybody that he's been, I mean, he's on that stage and he's doing interviews on a constant basis. And she, to your point, has only given that one interview with CNN as a presidential candidate. I want to talk to you about some news that Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders made. He was facing questions on Harris's flip-flopping on policy positions ahead of the election. Watch what he said.
Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I support Medicare for all. She does not. She has another approach toward moving toward universal health care.
Moving towards universal health care, Julian.
Well, look, I mean, I think this is exactly to my point as to why she cannot have a rose garden strategy going into the fall. There are just too many questions about, if you change your position on one issue, that may show growth, it may show flexibility. If you change your positions on everything, whether it is being soft on crime, all of a sudden you're tough on crime. Immigration, you're open borders, all of a sudden you're for secure borders. Medicare for all of a sudden you're against taking away private health insurance. If you change your position on everything, it's going to raise questions about authenticity, and this is where exactly I think Republicans are going. They are going to go at whether she is an authentic candidate and whether she is actually prepared for the office. And to the extent that they hide her from unscripted environments in the news media, they are going to feed that issue, and they are going to build a momentum in the event that there is a slip in the debate or a slip in some unscripted environment for the Republican argument. This is why I think the Democrats, I'm sorry to say this as a Democrat, are making a big mistake by this cocooning or this very, very protective approach that they're taking with her. She needs to explain exactly why she's changed her position on so many different issues and what her thinking is, other than just saying my values haven't changed.
Yeah, no. And I think that, again, the timing of that is very, very interesting. Ashley, before you go, I do want to ask you about this. So she made a campaign stop over the weekend at this Pittsburgh spice shop. They're known to openly hate and slam Republicans. Penzi Spicy offered discounts to celebrate Trump's indictments. Here's what she said when she was there at the store.
Main message to Trump in the debate. What's the one thing you want to really get across to him?
Well, there's a lot, but look, it's time to turn the page on the divisiveness. It's time to bring our country together, chart a new way forward.
Ashley, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think Julian should switch to our party. He sounds almost like I do. But what I don't understand, not even about the spice shop, but in general, but she is running as an incumbent. She is an incumbent. She's been the vice president for the last 4 years that has been a bulldog against President Trump and all of his policies. So her saying they want to they want to turn the page. Well, she is the page. So I don't understand that. That is why in this poll, when 50% of the country think he's the one that's changed and not her, the message isn't resonating because, again, she's the incumbent right now.
Well, I tell you what, Ashley Davis, Julian Epstein, two of my favorites, and I'm really grateful for both of you being here. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.